Welcome back, everybody, to another episode in our hashtag BKOT series, where we bring on awesome folks like Mr. Simon Chaplin today and discuss how the accounting industry is transforming itself and provide some insight today. And something that I really am excited to talk about is bottleneck with practice owners. It's something that there's a lot to discuss. But first, Simon, please introduce yourself. Thank you so much for taking time out to do this today.
That's brilliant to be with you, Chris, as well. So I'm Simon Chaplin. I'm based in the UK, just north of Cambridge in the UK. I am an accountancy practice owner. So I have an accountancy practice, got 22 people work for me. And back in the late 2000s, so 2008, 2009, I got a bit bored with the accounts production aspect of running an accountancy practice. So I decided to remove myself from that process. And now in 2023, it took about 3 years to move myself across, but now the accountancy practice runs without me. And I'm in the privileged position of being able to work with other accountants within my community through mastermind groups to help inspire, challenge and support them to do basically what I did, to remove themselves as the bottleneck within the practice and have the choice as to whether they go to work or not.
You said accountancy practice runs without you. That can't be true. That's what it's all about. They're firm owners and managers it's a little insane how much they're involved in work that they shouldn't be doing. So now you also published a book on this as well, right?
Yeah, very much so. The book is called Banish the Bottleneck, obviously, removing you out of the bottleneck of the practice, and is all about the 7 steps to grow your almost perfect team. You never have a perfect team, but your almost perfect team for your accountancy practice. And just to put a caveat on it, Chris, I am not 100% completely out of the practice. Obviously, I'm still an owner, and I still get involved. There's still certain things that strategic decisions and things like that I contribute to. Lots of the team would probably say I get too involved on certain occasions and cause more aggravation than what the solutions that I solve. But yeah, so if I said on average I'm doing about 1 day a week, 1 day a fortnight within the practice, that would be a sort of realistic appraisal of it.
Right. Yeah. It's in today's accounting firms, there's just so much going on, so much transformation going on. And so I feel like they're involved more than ever. Now, you obviously had a huge mindset shift because you were in the practice and all of a sudden, what was the moment when you decided to kind of change what you were doing on a day-to-day basis? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I did some work. There's a whole long story around it, but I was effectively I was overweight, massively overweight, more overweight than what I was now. I was smoking. I thought that successful people smoked cigars, so I'd got into a cigar habit, drinking far too much, and ultimately I was working six days a week, 7 days on certain occasions. And again, a bit of a long story, but I had a conversation with my mum, or my mum sort of pointed out these factors and said, Simon, how come you're so successful in business, but your life is basically going towards a heart attack very quickly? And off the back of that, I went out and found a personal coach that shared some emotional intelligence strategies with me. I got into neuro-logistical programming. I became a qualified hypnotherapist and various other different things, which ultimately led me to becoming more self-aware. And within that self-awareness, it was a realization that the actual accountancy work, the actually doing the work, wasn't my passion. My passion was coaching, consulting, helping each other be the best that they want to be, inspiring, challenging and supporting business owners and now accountants to be the very best they want to be. And I didn't really, there was a whole load of stuff going on around that. And then I discovered a book called Firm of the Future by Paul Dunn and Ron Baker, which it set out exactly what it was that I thought an accountancy practice should look like. and I started implementing lots of their ideas, getting rid of timesheets and all sorts of stuff like that. And then I came across a book called Drive by Dan Pink, and having read that book and the 3 principles within that book, it just, okay, yes, they're grown-ups. The team that work for me are grown-ups. They can make decisions. And ultimately, I set around getting clarity over where it was that we was going to go, communicating that with the team, and then giving them the resources, the opportunities, the skill set in order to do my job. And that's ultimately where the passion came from. But there's a number of points along that journey where there was a courageous decision, if I say so myself, to let go of the control and take the risk and move to something that I really wanted, rather than something that I felt was a bit of a chore and something that I had to do.
That is very relevant for me personally, because there was a time in my life too where I was I killed it on all cylinders and doing very, very well. But my health too was going downhill. I have alopecia areata, and I had my hair would stop growing. And so I had all these like circles, and I was myself very overweight, and I thought, that because successful, everything was doing very well, that I was happy. And then when someone else says it to you, especially your mother, and you forget these things. And the same thing happened here. This was right before I joined on with Entigrity over 5 years ago. Now I got a full head of hair and lost a lot of weight, and you have to understand you're ready to take this next step. And then how did we get there? And so you're inspired by this book. And so how long did it take for this transformation to happen? Because nothing's ever rushed, but was this over the course of years, weeks? Can you talk about that?
So the transformation from what I would have called a pretty stereotypical traditional accountancy practice to something that was far more modern, that began in early 2003, and I would say it was completed. We was winning awards by sort of 2006, 2007, so a 4-year period. I then had a bit of a rest before my mum told me off. And over a period of 3 years then is how I then extracted myself out of the practice. When we're working with accountants within the mastermind now, the shift from stereotypical traditional accountancy practice to something that's running with some KPIs and some numbers and stuff, that can happen very quickly. It's only a question as to how quickly they want to go and implementing the system. So if you said sort of 18 months to 3 years, sort of that time band, and the extracting yourself out of the practice, that the process that took me 3 years, we've had people that I've worked with that have done that in as little as 12 months now. More often than not, it's about 18 months. But again, it depends on how courageous they want to be, how much time they want to spend, how quickly they get to their what we call their purpose number. So what it is that the practice is actually in existence for. And then ultimately skill sets of team members, recruitment, training them, skills matrix, delegating, etc., etc. So 12 months is pushing it. And that can be very lumpy, very, very bumpy road, but 18 months to 2 years is more practical.
Yeah. And when you were starting this, you're obviously it's going to take much longer as you're building that whole process and the secret sauce per se. But now that you understand how it works and actually going through it, I mean, that's awesome, because someone that's actually experienced it can be much more relevant working with clients. And as you are meeting new clients today, what do you find is the most challenging for them to get on board and get started? What do you find is the most challenging part?
The most challenging part for the accountant, for them to come on board. It's a really interesting question, Chris. It's mindset ultimately, because what happens, and again, we have this phrase, sticking wings on a bike won't make it fly. So very often,
Pardon? Red Bull does it with all their commercials.
Well, that's right. But what you find is we're becoming an instant gratitude society, in that you go on Amazon or whatever it is, and you buy it and you want it to arrive today. And people get into this mindset around business, and I'll buy this course, and it ends in a 7 and all that sort of stuff, and we'll introduce this silver bullet, and before we know where we are, we will be perfect and passive income, and there's nothing else to do. We just buy the course, implement it, and away we go. And the mastermind is not like that at all. And as I say, sticking wings on a bike, buying a course, you can pedal as hard as you like, it's not going to take off. So very often the problems that the accountants come to us with are not their real problems, they're the surface level problems. So we have to go deeper and get it to the underlying challenges, and it invariably it's all about the accountant, their mindset, their limiting beliefs, their self-beliefs. And as soon as you start working with somebody, they've got to have that open mind, it's that willing to improve. So again, we have this thing, we have certain individuals that come to us for confirmation. So they come and they want confirmation that they're doing the right thing. So a completely closed mindset. We have other accountants that come to us that are looking for information. So we can share information with them, and then they look at it and work out what it is that they're going to do. But the real beauty, the lovely people that we work with, are the ones that are looking for transformation. So they've already started the journey in some sort of in some sort of way. They're taking the information and they're asking questions. So how can I use this? How can I improve on it? What other information can I get? So they have to have the open mind, open parachute, etc., phrase. Understand that there's not an overnight success. It takes time to work on it. It is hard work running a business. If it wasn't hard work running a business, everybody would do it. And it's even harder work running a successful business. So they have to come along looking for at least confirmation, more likely transformation, and an open mind, and then a willingness to implement. And within the mastermind, we are all around accountability. So again, another thing that I'm very passionate about. I know people go on courses and they sit there and they rah, and all the rest of it. And they write a big list of stuff that they're going to do when they get back to the office, and then nothing happens. Well, within the mastermind, those actions, they're recorded in some software that we use. So I can see what they said they're going to do. They can see what they say they're going to do. And then we as a team nag them to make sure that they are doing it. And once they've done it, they tick it off. And then at the end of the year, we can have a celebration because we've got a list of all the things that they said that was going to do, and they've done them to a degree. There's some that obviously they slip through the net, but we run at about a 90 to 95% implementation rate. So 95% of the actions that the members say that they're going to implement get implemented, because otherwise it's pointless. You just go on a course, you sit there, you have a nice time, but you go back and nothing changes.
You said a key word there, the team. So now you got an owner that's ready to do this, understands it's not going to happen in 10 days. And now in order to do this, you got to have one heck of a team, right? And so how are you approaching that aspect and working with them? Are you identifying leaders, or how does that, now that the firm owner's on board, right, does that process go?
So the fundamental aspect of it is that sometimes there's a bit of a shift between them and us. So the team are the enemy, and I can't get them to do what I want them to do. So from a practice owner point of view, they need to shift the mindset and say, right, these people are coming to work for me. They're volunteering to come and work for me. So they're on my side. And nearly always when you've got a team that isn't producing, it's because there's a lack of clarity from the practice owner in what it is that they want the team member to do. So the beginning of the book is all about getting clarity and then communicating that clarity, the goals, the objectives, the vision, the mission, the purpose, the values, etc., over to the team members. Now, once you've got that, then you just need to list out the skills that they want and then start implementing coaching, training, mentoring, whatever language you want to call it. That's those skill sets. And then the team member can work their way up and they can see the progress that they've made. So they can then see the goal. And it's all about providing them with clarity and the autonomy, which was the big thing that I got from Drive and Dan Pink, the ability for them to make decisions themselves, obviously, and not be spoon fed in order to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. So it's I keep going back to the practice owner perspective. There are obviously bad apples from a team perspective. You'll have the terrorists, there'll have the people that you don't trust. They need to be exited. And then the people that are on side, the people that have the right attitude, you can teach them the aptitude, and then away you go. The world's your oyster.
Yeah. It's important to assess the team, because I find that there's many instances where the top person, whatever they do, I mean, and this is across not just accounting, but any industry, the top salesperson or the top bookkeeper or the top tax person, right? They're automatically should be a manager or a reviewer or a leader. And that's really assumed quite a bit. And I found that out when there was a previous position I was in, and I came in, I was late 20s, and my oldest employee was 65. And late 20s guy coming in to take over an office and tell this guy what to do, right? We formed the strongest relationship of the rest of the team that I had, which was anywhere from 20 to 25 people at any given time. We had the strongest relationship because he said, I don't want your job. And so he knew he was good at what he did. He's going to do that. But he also has that bravado and that tenure, and like, I also run the office. And so that's where I had to come in and lay the law down. And because of the way we worked, and everyone that you manage is if you have 20 people that you're managing, you have 20 different ways to manage them. It's insane. Everyone needs to be everyone's held accountable on the same level, but how they're managed completely different. And a lot of people just kind of group everybody together. And so in doing that and putting my focus on making sure that the relationship that I had with the most senior person was my priority, it made everything else kind of fall into place. And so never assume that just because they're the best at what they do, that they actually want a promotion or a leadership role. I think that's very important to work closely with the team.
Wholeheartedly. We have a phrase in the UK that people get promoted to their level of incompetence. So you keep getting promoted until you can't do the job properly. So then what happens is you end up with two people in the wrong job. You end up with the person that was good technically doing the manager's job, and so it's like you end up with two people in the wrong job rather than one person in the right job. And sometimes obviously people are ambitious and they want to improve, and they're not right for the job, and they need to obviously be encouraged, mentored, etc., to do the job that's most appropriate for them. But yeah, I'm very conscious, and so, some people will probably say that I've been promoted to my level of incompetence now, but I'm very conscious of what you're encouraging people to do. We have another little system: finders, minders, and grinders. So you have the people out there that are finding the work, you have the people there that are looking after the work, the managers, the minders, and you have the grinders who are producing the work. The most important people in any business, you've got to have production. And the best grinders obviously want to be grinding. They don't want to be minding or finding.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like you start identifying that, hey, when a new person comes in the office and they're all grinders, and someone that's kind of senior there is taking the lead as a team lead, and then organically they grow into a leadership role too. And so I really enjoyed when I came into a really underperforming office, and this was Long Island, and I was coming from the upstate New York, and and New York is gigantic, but also there's you're not a Long Island, you're not from Long Island. Long Island's run differently, yada yada yada. And in order to that, in being the age I was, it was a very difficult journey, but it transformed how I just think about life in general. And I think that is empowering for a firm, because when you have a team that's just running on all cylinders, you're able to have such confidence that they're going to get the work done. And delegating the work is always the firm owners want a piece of everything. And it's very hard to delegate. How do you go about somebody that's kind of on that OCD type of control level? How do you work with them and getting them to understand the importance of delegation?
So it's the first thing is understanding their motivation as to why they're OCD like that. So it could be fear of being sued, fear of losing customers, fear of somebody making a mistake and it being found out by the revenue. It could be an ego thing in that I'm the most important person in the place and therefore I have to do all the work. So that the first thing to do in any of those scenarios is to understand the motivation of the person that's holding on, that's controlling. And then once you, I mean, information's power. So I'm powerful because I know where everything works. So once you've got that understanding and got that motivation, then you can start working with them, asking great questions. All great answers start with a great question. So you can start asking great questions and unearthing and helping them realize what it is that they need to do in order to let that go. But the reality of it, as you know, Chris, is if they don't want to let it go, they can sit there and they can say, oh yeah, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. But if they truly don't want to do it, then you're never gonna move it. And again, within the mastermind over the years, we've had a few people that have come along and they've said that they want to do this, they want to go on this journey, and it becomes apparent that they don't, so they have to leave because it frustrates the bejesus out of me. It's like, come on, we're having these conversations, you're saying you're going to do it and then you're not going to do it. It's wasting your time and my money. Go and sully somebody else's door and I'll work with people that actually want to do the work.
Yeah, that's surprising. Yeah, no, it really is. I get it if they meet with you early on and then they're just like, not for me, which I appreciate that because they have an open mind. They're wanting to see if this can work. But when you start going through it, I mean, you got to finish.
That's right.
You
And
got-
what you very often find is they've rocked up talking about information and transformation. So they're talking a good talk, but what they're actually doing is they're turning up in confirmation and they'll sit there and they'll say things like, well, we do that already, or we used to do that before, or we've tried that and it didn't work for us. So they're very much in that confirmation language, in that commentary critique language, rather than looking at how they can move that dial going forward. And same as any business, we look at it, we're keen obviously to take customers on, and sometimes we look at it and think, okay, that might work, and ultimately it doesn't.
Yeah. If it's a yes, it's a yes. It's a no. If it's a no, it's a no. It's a maybe, it's a no.
It should be, yes. Yeah, I know. Yeah. The benefit of hindsight.
Complicate things. If it's a maybe, it's a no.
Yeah.
I can relate there. And so now, before we've got a few more minutes, and so when before we wrap up, share some. We've been talking about some good points here. I mean, first and foremost, you gotta be aware of what you're doing and have the right mindset and explore it. All right. And if it's for you, great, you explored it. Don't go into it with a negative attitude. But can you share some other tips with us, with the audience today, about removing yourself as the bottleneck per se?
So a really simple one is to ask, go back to the asking better questions. So what tends to happen is we as business owners, people come and ask us questions, especially accountants. The clients do it as well. They come and ask us questions. And in Western society, we've been taught from a very young age that providing the answers to questions gets us gold stars at school and it gets us certificates and all the rest of it. So we become very good at providing the answers to questions. Now, what we are less good at is analyzing whether the right question's being asked in the first place, which is obviously part of the mastermind group. But answering the question of a team member encourages it. We get an ego boost from it, but it encourages the team member to come back and ask more questions. So instead of answering the question, you bite your tongue and you ask one of two questions. What do you recommend? Is a perfect. So team member comes, they come with a problem. I ask them what they recommend. All of a sudden, they've got a shift from problem to solutions. Yeah. Okay. So they could come to me and say, Simon, the photocopier is broken. Okay, what do you recommend? And it's like, oh, okay, ring the photocopier company. That's a good idea. Go and ring the photocopier company. Now, over time, it doesn't happen overnight, but over time, when they come to me, all of a sudden I'm looking at them and they're going, oh, he's going to ask me that recommend question. And sometimes they'll walk away and they'll solve the problem. So they take responsibility for it. Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend? And then the other one that's beautiful from my perspective is when you've got a team member and they're coming to you and they're moaning about something. So this is happening, or that's not happening, or the kettle's not boiling fast enough, or whatever it is. The question is, what do you want instead? Okay, so what would you like instead? And all of a sudden, they're having to flip from what they don't want into what it is they do want. And I might be able to help them get that. But if I second guess what it is that they want because of the problems that they're sharing, I might offer them solutions that don't fit their desired outcome. So the number one question should be asked all the time, constantly being asked, what do you recommend? And if somebody's moaning, what do you want instead?
Yeah, and without them even knowing, when they see you, yeah, they're gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out. And you start changing their mindset, and just by flipping the question right back to them. I like that.
Yeah,
Perfect
very much
approach.
so. And I had it laminated. I had, what do you recommend? I had it laminated on a wall behind me. And because I'm a bit playful with people, there's all sorts of different things that we do within the office. Sometimes when I saw people coming over to me, I didn't even say anything. I just turned around and pointed at the wall behind me, and they got the message. If you've not got a recommendation, and then they'll get clever and they say, Simon, the photocopy is broken. Should I ring the company? Yeah, should I ring the photocopy company? Well, okay, what do you recommend? I recommend, yes, then go and do it. And as they develop and build up, they start telling you what they've done rather than asking permission to do stuff. And all of a sudden you become far more efficient. You start to trust people, vulnerability, etc., etc.
Start today, folks. What do you recommend?
What do you recommend? Very much so.
Love it. Simon, thank you so much for taking time out. You were an absolute joy to speak with. I could talk to you all afternoon, evening on your end. But again, thanks for coming on to our audience out there. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you've got a lot of takeaways for today. We'll be back soon in another series. But Simon, thanks a lot.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. Bye-bye.